for new resellers who want to jump in on a wonderful game, collectors of fashion, their own or an old flame, treasures they have and want to share, recycled items, collect money to spare. Reselling is appealing and great, but they shouldn't catch the cheap bait, for it is hard work, discipline, and more. It's not easy to hit the floor and immediately have a successful store. So stop and think, assess and review. Is this the best venture for you? Allow the reselling community to help out. Although you should know right now, there is no easy way to plow through all the information one must know. No shortcuts or an overnight fix. Learning curve is there, even with a few tricks. But it is all on you alone to commit, drive daily, hustle, and get your store. Wishing you well, I certainly do. So are you ready to make your debut? Will you be the one that does not fail? Or will you join the thousands that bailed? Greetings and salutations, YouTubeville. This is Anna, aka Boondoggle Bliss, occasional reseller of wonderful fashion. I hope you enjoy that little video. I just kind of, came out. I was telling my friends on Instagram, I let my inner Dr. Seuss out this morning. Anyway, today I am making a video on some newbie reseller topics. So based on what I see, these are the most frequently asked questions or debated topics or just statements made by new resellers. And I've answered all these before, whether it's, in a post, in a direct message, in an email, or whatever. So I'm making this video for efficiency's sake. So when any of these topics come up, instead of me feeling guilty that I don't have the time to answer it or contribute to the conversation, bam, there it is. I'm going to have timestamps. It's really ambitious. I'm going to have timestamps in this video with when I talk about each topic, and then I'm going to send it to them. Yeah, that's called efficiency, and I'm not going to feel guilty. This video will probably bore experienced resellers, so I implore any of you to still watch it, maybe if you have some time, and join the conversation below, because you might have some really good insight, and I would like any newbie person who is watching this to then look down below and see these healthy conversations. And if you have links to any interesting blogs, or maybe you made a video on this topic in detail and you would like to add to the conversation, please share that information down below. I would love that. Now, if you are going to contribute to any one of these topics, 1 through 20, just leave the number that you are answering or talking about down below so we can quickly know what's going on. Now, each one of these topics that I will present can stand on its own as its own video or a blog post. So therefore, you might see me go deep into the weeds on any of these in the future, depending on the discussions that we have and the interest that occurs. So without further ado, here goes. I'm going to quit my job and start selling full-time. No. Don't do it. Just trust me and all the hundreds of people that have done it, and it was not a good thing. As a matter of fact, there's plenty of other YouTube videos about individuals that, talked about mistakes made, and that was something that was a really big topic. And there are so many reasons for it that it baffles me that someone would still, in this day and age, do something like that without prior experience. I'm not listing limits on eBay, a learning curve, knowing where you're going to source, or the time commitment. If you had a 8-hour job, full-time eBay reselling is not an 8-hour job. Which platform you're going to sell on, your expenses, you just there's stuff you gotta think about. Please do not quit your job and just start reselling without any experience. The best way is to dip your feet while you're still working, to, to give it a try. Some people go all in and just start learning eBay and try it that way. Some people do a little bit on the side with like Mercari or Poshmark to see if they even like it before they make huge big commitments. But don't just quit and go all in. No matter how smart you are, how intelligent, and how well-meaning and motivated you are, don't just do that. You'll thank me later. The other one is, do I have to have a specific camera, or is there do I have to spend a lot of money on an expensive one? What do you take your pictures with? They look so great. How do you do that? How do you do this? I do everything with my iPhone. So I never invested in a camera. I have a camera for other things, but I don't use it. I prefer my iPhone camera, and I love my iPhone camera. I do all my editing on it, but you don't have to. Reserve those types of conversations for 1 year, 2 years into your journey of reselling if you get into more advanced product photography. For now, your camera will do just fine. The one caveat is you do have to learn to play with light. If you're not an experienced person in pictures and lighting and maybe some editing, you will have to brush up your skills, because lighting is a huge thing when it comes to product photography, and your cover shot is really important. So if for whatever time you're saving of not having to invest into an amazing camera and equipment, spend that time focusing on brushing up your skills on taking really nice pictures. That's that. Probably this is the most commonly asked questions, and I know it's frustrating with some individuals who get asked this over and over, but do I have to wash my thrifted clothing? The answer is no, but do whatever you want. You don't have to, okay? Basically, you can have the approach, which is the approach I use, of washing when it needs it. If it has a stain that needs to be taken out, it could be a small surface stain you can just do without doing any washing. If there's something and you have to soak it and then wash it, all of that, just do it if it needs it. If it has a little stinky, you're going to have to do something. Also, don't forget all those tools I've talked about before. The dryer bags, the dry cleaning bags you can get at Target, where you put some solution or something in there, throw it in this bag, put it in your dryer, and it simulates a dry cleaning experience. There's a lot of things like that you can use to help out your products, but we sell with the assumption that whomever is buying this used piece of clothing, they're probably going to wash it as soon as it gets there. So that's that. I think it's highly inefficient to wash all your clothing, but then again, I don't know your situation. You could be focusing on luxury items and selling few things a month. In that case, it might be really worth, because you're going to have a higher end clientele, to really invest time into cleaning, sprucing up, and upcycling your item. But for the quick flip, for the majority of what we do, you do not have to wash all the clothing. How much money do you need to start reselling? Zero. That is the wonderful thing. If I'm going to over-glorify reselling, I will over-glorify at this juncture and say you really don't need anything to start reselling except your phone, Wi-Fi access, and a car. I would say those are the basic starting requirements. But as I recommend to any new reseller, start with what you have. So go around your house, find clothing you're not wearing, your husband's, your wives, your kids, ask your grandma, ask your mother, do closet clear outs, gather that stuff. That's going to be your starting inventory, make some money off of that, and then you can reinvest and reinvest. Now, if you don't know where to source, I do have a video on 20, I think it was 20 or 25 different places to source. I'll make sure to link that below, but you really don't need much. And then once you start making a little bit, then you can invest and make some small purchases, some cleaning products, a steamer to get the wrinkles out when you're taking pictures, some type of a backdrop, but you really do not need any money. I love that. And you'll find that a lot of people started with nothing, and just remember that. Don't put up that wall and say, "Oh, I need all these things before I can start selling." I see a lot of people doing that, where they're just creating barriers for themselves before they begin actually doing the work. They think they need all these million things to be successful. You need nothing. You can start right now. Boom. It's so easy, anyone can do it. You might have seen some videos where that was a statement, but I gotta break it to you, it is hard work. I think there's been videos made to encourage you to try it, but maybe you didn't see the entire story. You saw a video in isolation of, someone that's like making $5,000 a month or whatever, 100,000 a year, and you see that one video and you're like, oh yeah, I can do that, that's easy. But it was taken out of context. Maybe you didn't see all the other videos of all the hard work those resellers do, and it is hard work. So in essence, yes, anyone can create a listing, but not anyone can get things to sell and make a living out of it. It is hard. You got to have a lot of determination, discipline, and your hustle has to be super on, especially with a big learning curve. If you're entering into something that you don't necessarily know much about, such as fashion, or you're going to go do video games and you really don't know the gaming, you're going to have a huge, huge learning curve in addition to learning how to sell. So no, not anyone can do it. I'd say anyone can create a listing, but not anyone can sell and be successful and be able to actually make money enough to support themselves full time. It takes a special kind of person. So I'm not trying to discourage you, but I need you to be very realistic with yourself, and make sure that you've got what you need to have in order to do this. We'll talk about that more later. No, not anyone can do it. Can I be successful without having the GoodWill Outlet, aka the bins, around me? The answer is yes, you still can. There's still ways to get product without the GoodWill outlets. And it's frustrating for me when I see people saying, oh, I can't be a reseller, I can't try it because I don't have the outlets near me. No, a lot of people don't have the outlets near them and they can still do it. So can you. Once again, check my link down below to the video on places to source, and you can do it. Let me tell you this. When I first started, for about 2 years, I didn't have the bins around me, or I didn't know about it. First, I didn't know about it, then I didn't have it. Then I moved back to California, and I didn't even think about them so much. And finally, I'm like, well, I gotta see if I have one. So I did all of that without knowing even the bins were around. So if I can do it, you can do it too. Is clothing the best thing to start selling? Is it the easiest? That is a very common topic that I have encountered. And I gotta tell you, clothing is not easy. If you have an opportunity to start selling something else, I recommend you go and do that something else. When I'm working with new resellers, I give them this little 3-point strategy, right? So for one, short term, sell what you have. Midterm goal, sell what you know. So it'll, knowing it helps you, removes that big learning curve. And 3, a long-term goal, sell what you like. There's nothing worse than selling stuff you don't care for. I mean, if I had to sell freaking men's ties or shoes, I'd shoot myself. I mean, I don't like that stuff. I don't like it at all. If I knew about it, I would sell it in the, in the near short term, but I definitely wouldn't make that my long-term plan. So once again, sell what you have, sell what you know, sell what you like. That should be kind of the basis of how you approach what you will be selling. Obviously, it's much easier to sell something when you have a knowledge base about it. And do not corner yourself into a situation where you have to sell things you do not care for. It's going to be torture. So that fun reselling is going to become hell. This is a great topic, even experienced sellers debate on, and that's just the number of platforms you should be selling on. And a lot of new resellers come in thinking that, let me just learn one platform inside and out and become like the master at it, and then I'll see if I want to sell anywhere else. I highly recommend to diversify with just at least one other one. And the reason for that is you really don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. And if that platform, maybe there's a defect and it shuts down for a few days, or innocently you get suspended from that platform and you no longer have access to sell there, it should however highly unlikely, if something occurs with one platform, you need to have something else to kind of fall back upon. Now, if this is just your hobby, yeah. But if you're planning to make a living off of it, whether it's part-time, full-time, diversifying your selling platforms is really important. That should be kind of your risk management strategy. If this doesn't work, I have something else. Now, you'll also find that the items you're able to source for will determine what platforms to sell on as well. So you might have stuff that's great for the real, or if you're a man, for the grailed. You might have stuff that's perfect for Poshmark or Mercari. So that's also going to determine that for you. Your sourcing sources. I hate saying that, but your sources, source. I'm going to stop selling that. Saying that, not selling that. That's important. Just, don't corner yourself into this one thing. And then also, I think what I'm seeing is those people that have sold on eBay for a really long time, they have a hard time embracing the other apps that are coming out. So do yourself a favor and get comfortable with other platforms right off the bat. Yes, you gotta invest some time into learning it, especially eBay. There's a bigger learning curve, but don't get so married to it. Plus, with technology, there's disruptions all the time. There could be a new selling platform right around the corner, and if you have 1,000 listings on eBay, and that's kind of hard to move around. So, food for thought. Food for thought. You may get different opinions on this topic, but that's my 2 cents. I I was told thrifting and selling for profit is sleazy and bad. Yeah, I know for a fact if you are into reselling, you have encountered that type of sentiment or comment in your face about this. And while it's very frustrating, I want to kind of assure you that it is not sleazy and bad. It's called basics of economics, basics of the retail sector. I mean, how do you think the retail market operates? Buy low, sell high. Tell me a market that doesn't function like that. Buy low, sell high. The fact that the items are used actually presents a greater case for you that you're doing better because you're impacting the waste that we produce in America through fast fashion. Fast fashion has just fashion overall, but I'm talking about fast fashion just because that's the clothing that really contributes highly to the textile waste is just on the rise. And we are, as resellers, we're actually doing something good. We're recycling prior fashions and making them loved again, and we're selling it. I can't fathom the other point of view. I try to understand it, but anytime I've gotten into a debate, there were problems the other person was having that led them to feel that way. So they didn't actually have a problem with you reselling and you buying lots. There was something else going on that got them to that place of just being hate, mean, and aggressive, and it really wasn't about you. So I'd say if you ever get that, do not take it personally. If you have any talking points, educate them on the spot. Tell them that you are part of a $16 billion industry in the United States, and it's an industry that's vastly growing with a focus on recycling fashion, and that you're actually positively impacting the community through this. There's just a lot of things you can say to get out of that if you feel you need to, but now I don't really feel I even have to say anything. It's just a waste of time. But no, you shouldn't feel bad about what you do, just as Marshalls shouldn't feel bad about what they do. Buffalo Exchange, Crossroads, and all those resale operations shouldn't feel bad about what they do. So that's my 2 cents. That's it. That's that. This takes too long. Can you give me some of your shortcuts? Can you give me a brand list so I know what brands to shop for? Can you tell me which platform is best for me and where I should start selling? Are there any shortcuts to measuring? How do I measure faster? Can you give me a list of things I should not be buying? No! Because guess what? There are no shortcuts. Yes, we all have little efficiency things we do that give us a little bit of extra time in the day, but shortcuts come with experience and you doing the work over and over and over again until you establish some speed, and those will be your shortcuts, okay? There isn't anything that we resellers know that's giving us an edge over you beginner. There really isn't any. It's just experience. So you're going to have to put in the time and just do it over and over and over and over again and keep testing and seeing what works for you. Just trust me. Don't be spending so much time looking for those unicorns out there where they don't exist. Yeah, you guys know my little helpful hint that I've shared, my little magical reselling helper, dictation. That's my shortcut. Outside of that, you just got to put in the work and efficiency, this Time gives you experience, experience gives you efficiency, speed, blah, 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 and life goes on. There are no shortcuts. You can try to take some. I've seen people take some, but that generally doesn't work out so well. It'll catch up with you sooner or later, or you can be, undercutting the market and just selling stuff really low and not making a profit just to grow. You can be doing stuff like that, but it doesn't do anyone any good, including you in the long run. So there aren't really any major shortcuts. Yeah, you just gotta put in the work. You just gotta do it. Do it. Do you have any advice on how to deal with all the questions I get on Poshmark? There's all these questions and it's taken me so much time to respond. Well, I mean, you could put all the information that you're getting questions on proactively in the descriptions of your listing. Oh, but that takes too much time. I'd rather just respond as I get them. Okay, so what was your question again? I'm sorry, I don't understand. How long before I start making $1,000 a month? Okay. If you're asking me this question, knowing that I don't know anything about you and your situation, my answer will be too long. Okay? Too long. You'd have to know that I need to know your background and your experience level with what you want to sell, where do you want to sell it, what is the situation that you are in, where are you going to keep it, how big is it, how are you going to ship it, what profit margins are you expecting to be running on any one item. Do you want to do quick flips with clothes? And how long is it going to take you to do that? Or do you want to sell luxury goods, so you only have to sell 3 or 4 things a month, and you'll be making... I can't answer any of that. So if you're going to ask me, I'm going to say too long. Now, chances are instinctively, anyone that is asked that question, they're going to look on themselves and say, well, it took me this long to do this. But just word of caution, everyone. It has to be taken with a grain of salt. What traits make a successful reseller? Oh man, we could probably talk about that forever. I did a post on Instagram asking that question a long time ago, and a lot of people chimed in, and I don't think there was any that repeated. Maybe one, the one around being changeable, change tolerant, and adaptable. But above all, everyone had something different to contribute. So it is a subjective answer, but I'm going to give you my spiel in what I think would make a successful reseller. Number 1, accountability. Although that's my answer for like a lot of things and how people can be successful in them is accountability. Reselling is no different. You have to be accountable to yourself, to your goals, to your customers. And above all, with that is motivation. So you have to keep yourself motivated so you can fulfill all those goals and just be accountable. Okay. So number 1, accountability. Number 2, being adaptable, change tolerant, and being able to shift gears quickly. I think, it's definitely not a profession or not a, job where you kind of learn something and you just status quo and you just go. There's a lot of change that always occurs, either with the platform, with the market, with the customers, with products, with updates. So stuff is constantly going on. And if you're just kind of in a complacent mode, you're going to become irrelevant quickly. And all of a sudden, you're going to be the guy or the girl that says, hey, my stuff is not selling. Is anything going on? I'm not selling anything. Well, yeah, you're kind of missing the ball here because blah, blah, blah. So you got to be on top of all the blah, blah, blah and make sure that you're staying current and relevant. And the best way to do that is to really be part of a reselling community where people talk about it all the time and have accountability partners that can hold you accountable and chit chat with you. So having a support network would be important. So anyway, accountability, adaptability, and the last one being resourceful. And I think that's sometimes underplayed, but being a resourceful person is crucial. I've had the experience of training someone and working with them, and this was one thing that really constantly stood up. You could have all the other things in the world, but if you're not a resourceful person, you're not moving forward. And so I'm sticking that in there as my third subject to change, but being able to get what you need quickly and know where to go, using common sense. If I need this, I need to go there. If I need that, I need to go there, and just quickly moving forward without allowing any roadblocks kind of prohibit you from any type of progress. So resourcefulness, that's what I have for now. Do I have to use social media to get sales? That's a very interesting question that was posed to me in a local panel I did. And my answer is this: you don't have to, but it probably helps a lot if you do have some other way to bring traffic into your store. Now, when I say you don't have to, because most likely you're selling on a platform that's already bringing you clients or has already a big established client base. So you can make it without creating Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, and all these multiple sources and spending night and day driving traffic, right? You can do it. But it will definitely not hurt you if you do. So I know the person that asked that question had a lot of hesitation because they were not familiar with all those social platforms, and it was very overwhelming to them to think that they would need to create an account and establish a base there before they can drive traffic and all of that. So I think rest assured you're still going to be able to sell, but if you have the ability to create a presence on any one platform, I recommend Pinterest first, Instagram second, Facebook third, and everything else that follows behind. And Pinterest just because that's where a lot of the traffic in the age group that I'm targeting with what I'm selling is at, followed by Instagram. And when I say that, look at the demographics of the people that are on Pinterest. We have millennials, and we have the more mature 40 and up clientele. And so even in the 50s, the seniors, there's a lot of interest on Pinterest. And then when you look at the people that are shopping, that are looking for thrifted clothing, who are they? Millennials and the elderly people. Now, you don't find a lot of the mature audience that I want to sell to on Instagram. So that's why for me, I'm saying Pinterest is my primary, Instagram is my secondary. But depending on what you're selling, look at the platform that caters to that market and find the one that mirrors with what you're going at. So even going back to earlier conversations, you really got to know what you want to sell and what you want to do so that you can answer those additional questions later as to what other social media platforms do I need to be successful. So that's my long answer. It was much longer when I had to talk about it, not in front of the camera. Hopefully it wasn't a mess, because I can just yap like I did right now. Boom. So this is one of my favorite questions, and so much so that I wrote a short little blog about it on Facebook, which I'm going to direct you to down below as well. And there's hesitation about posting on multiple platforms, one item on multiple platforms, because of the fear that it's going to sell at the same exact second moment in time, and the individual won't know what decision to make as to where to send the item. So I'm slightly snickering at that because the fear is unjustified. For one, the chances of it selling at the same exact second are like less than 0.001%. Now, selling within minutes, yes, there is a likelihood. Within an hour, much higher. On the same day, absolutely. But you can establish a philosophy, whoever buys it first gets it, right? And problem solved. The problem comes in with eBay. Now, if this happens with Mercari and Poshmark, on Poshmark you don't get penalized. On Mercari, something in the future might be introduced, but it is not there now, that if you don't have the item, you can just cancel. Technically, it's extremely easy on both Poshmark and Mercari to cancel an item you do not have without any penalties or slaps on your account. On eBay is not tolerant when it comes to you canceling something. And as a matter of fact, I have a link within my blog to the language that talks about the possible risks you encounter when you do that, not only from a performance standard, but a potential negative review. How that happens, I don't know, but I'm putting the link in there if you really want to dive deeper into that. Now, do not be afraid. You have the option. Now, and I said in my blog, whichever makes you sleep okay at night, pick the one that helps you, handle the situation. But you could sell to the person that bought it first one in, first one gets the item, or whichever platform gives you the biggest platform. So for an example, if you had something listed on Poshmark for $25, on Mercari you had it for $30, hello, you're going to go with the one that gives you the bigger profit. But like I said, you have to be okay with that. You might be one of those people that's really an outstanding citizen of this world and will honor the first request and all that, whatever. You do whatever you need to do. Now, I do have one policy that I kind of use as my one humanitarian deed for the world, is that I will honor the lowest price. I will honor the lowest price. So if someone finds it cheaper on Mercari, vice versa on Poshmark, between the two platforms, now I'm going to be adding Vinted to that. I will just honor whatever you find at the lowest price. And I'm okay if I lose the 10% commission difference between Poshmark and Mercari. I'll swallow the pill on Vinted. No commission is taken out from me on Vinted. So I'll just price accordingly. And see what happens. Hopefully that all offsets one another. But that's that. Should I get a mannequin? Petunia, what would I do without you? I'm sure this is really creepy. But I quickly just wanted to point out that when you are first starting out, I recommend getting one of those hanging fashion forms. So not to be mistaken with dress forms, which I think if you can mentally picture a dress form as one that helps traditionally a dressmaker make clothing. So it's covered in jersey or some type of a fabric, does not have generally arms and a head. It's just there to aid with the sewing, whereas a fashion form generally is plastic. It's basically a mold of a body, and there are as big ones as going from the neck all the way down to the hips. Generally, it's just the torso. Those are really inexpensive. You can get them on Amazon for under $10. Yesterday when I was looking, I saw them for $6.29 free shipping. So when you're first starting out, I highly recommend to limit your expenses on these types of things and use what you can. I will even, I'm writing actually a blog on this topic, and I have a recommendation for a very inexpensive, something you can make at home that actually will look really cool, a dress form of sorts. So I'll be posting that in my blog soon. But there are alternatives to expensive mannequins. Now, if you are going to invest in a mannequin, there are different types I recommend. There's so many different types, and I'm going to go through all of that in my blog. There's the realistic display, there's the detachable head and torso, there's there's the abstract ones, the high fiberglass ones, the glossy ones, let's see, just random plastic ones, and there's the one that is the most expensive is the flexible mannequin that does not need detaching and unscrewing, and it's actually hanging from a metal rod. That is ideal because it's the quickest way to get clothes on and off. So I'll mention all of that. But for now, you're in your first few months. Do not invest in a mannequin. You never know where this is going to take you, and you don't want to have really high expenses right off the bat. The other thing you should know about the mannequins, that they're not very efficient when it comes to reselling. In order to put anything on, you have to undo the arms, take off the wig, generally if it's not attached. If it's pants or like a jumpsuit, you got to deal with the legs, taking it off the stand, putting the legs on, readjusting all the pieces together, and there you go. You have your piece, and then it's hard to, generally they are heavy, it's hard to move around. So while they look amazing, they're very difficult to work with. How should I organize my inventory? That is also a very common question. People are looking around for best ways to organize, and there are several things that need to be considered. First, I don't know what kind of space you're working with, whether you have a garage at your disposal, whether you have an extra bedroom, what space are you working with? Second of all, what platforms are you selling on? Because depending where you are selling and how you're selling could determine how to best organize it. And I'll illustrate that in just a minute. And then lastly, I would have to understand your process. So it's hard to say what is the best inventory, but let's just assume, and here's the illustration, that you are a minimal lister. So you just want to put the title, fill out the information that, let's say, Poshmark, Vinted, or Mercari has, just very basic, and take a few pictures and just list it. And you're the one that will wait for questions to come to you to get the initial information versus getting all of the info up front, so you never have to go back to that piece of clothing again. That will differ between sellers, right? But if you are a once and done person, the best way probably for you to organize your inventory is, once you've completely gathered all the information you need for that piece of clothing, put it in a see-through poly mailer baggie, a plastic baggie. If you're using control numbers, write your control number on top and stick it in a plastic bin. If you are not using control numbers, just make sure the plastic baggie is see-through and you're not sticking it directly into a poly mailer. This way you can quickly find your items. The way I have my eBay stuff organized at this time is that I have bins. I have a bin for, let's say, short sleeve shirts, long sleeve shirts, 2 bins for dresses, a bin for pants, a bin for skirts, and so that's all my eBay stuff. And then, because sometimes I do minimal listings on Poshmark and Mercari for my other stuff, I still have all of that hanging on Z-Racks. I bought several Z-Racks, I have lots of hangers, and I just hang stuff up this way if I need to. And I often do retake pictures, get some additional sizing information. All I have to do, go to the appropriate Z-Rack where the item is hanging, pull it, and then put it back. And I'm not dealing with the repackaging of the stuff, because you know what happens on eBay. A few times I had to go back and look at something. I never put it in the bag. Then it's loose somewhere laying, then I can't find it when someone buys it, so it's just a mess. I'm not a very organized person as it relates to that. So my system works for me right now. If I were to grow further, which I'm not, if I were to grow further, I would have to make some changes, because having 7 full 2-level Z-Racks is kind of crazy. But anyway, so it just all depends, I guess, what you're doing, your process, where you're selling, and just the quality of the clothing that you want to put out when you're shipping it. Sometimes I don't feel comfortable with certain items. I don't feel comfortable for them to be folded, laying in a plastic bin for 5 months because of the wrinkles and the creases it creates. So I rather have it hanging, and so it's more presentable. So it's all up to you. So your options really are hanging your clothing, having a shelving system and just stacking everything in there, or creating a system by using the different bins and some kind of a control method to quickly track down your inventory. If there's something else out there, let us know. I don't want to give out my home address. Is there a workaround? So yes, there is a workaround. You can get a P.O. box. However, you will have to enter some type of a return address. If you can't afford a P.O. box, then I don't see any other options for you. Reselling might not be your thing. Obviously, you can discuss with someone about using their work address, and they can receive your return packages. So if you can't come up with a solution that is a substitute for using your address, then I don't recommend moving into this type of reselling. You might really want to give it a try with drop shipping. Now, going back to the P.O. box, I heard comments such as, but I can only afford a small P.O. box. How am I going to accommodate return packages that are bigger than that? Check your USPS local office, their guidelines, because, for example, in my location, if I get a box that does not fit, a package that does not fit into the box that smaller box that I have, they will leave you a key for a box that's bigger than that will accommodate the package. Take the key, open it, leave the key in there, take the package, and you're good. Now, if this continues to happen over and over and they keep working like that, they're going to make you upgrade your box to a bigger size. But generally, occasional returns, which I'm assuming as a new reseller you would have, would be totally fine with a standard small P.O. box. I just remembered one other option. I've only heard about it once, so I don't know if it actually will work, if the system validates it, but you could enter a dummy address, a dummy return address, and just acknowledge that you will never be in a position where you're going to accept a return back. So you're always going to tell them to keep it and here's their money back, and that's going to be your policy, and you're just going to eat the cost. If your fear is so great, that cost may be completely justifiable in your mind, so that's fine. I haven't tested that, so I don't know if the system validates addresses and whether that is a viable solution, but worth a try. Do I need to set up a company to be a seller on Amazon or eBay or all those other wonderful platforms? The answer is no, you don't have to. eBay, Amazon, they do not require you to be a business entity. Now, with that said, should you really embrace selling and you want to really go forward and move forward and grow big, then yeah, I highly recommend you do become a company, a business entity. You will get tax benefits that you will probably most likely need. Perhaps you may have to go into getting a seller's permit, wholesaler number so that you can go and buy on wholesale websites, and probably all these other benefits. For one, I already have an S Corp, so my reselling hustle is a side thing, doing business as, and I have something separate going on, but I already have different streams of income coming in. So it was easy for me to just add this here on the side. If I was just reselling, would I have become a business entity? Probably not for a while. Probably not until my CPA told me, hey, you're hitting this profit threshold. Maybe it's time to start doing something about that. But otherwise, if it's just onesies, twosies here and there, you really don't need to do that. Also, you'd consider that once you become, once you get to a place where you want to hire some people. Now, naturally, you can hire some people on the side, kind of under the table, like a teenager, to come and do some of your listings or whatever. There's all this stuff you can do. But if you get into a situation where you want to have a established employee and you want to have protection for yourself and all that, it's time to consider becoming a business and doing it appropriately and creating a W-2 or 1099, then whatever, however you're going to handle it, you need to be a business entity. That's that. How do you know what to buy? I think that's another way of saying, is there a guide somewhere that can help me with this? Do you have a list of things? How do you know what to buy? And once again, this is something that will come with experience. How do I know what to buy? Because I read magazines, I read blogs, I watch fashion vloggers, I very frequently look at sold listings on Poshmark and Mercari and other platforms as well, just see what's trending. Not only just like loosey-goosey seeing what's going on, but I'll sit down very frequently and do a spreadsheet and do a very focused review of what sold when for how much. And this helps me then create a little, do some pivots and see what's going on. Let's see, what else? Yeah, like I said, I've recently also did a little blog post on Facebook about looking at ISO listings. So ISO is an abbreviation for in search of, and I'll type in ISO on Poshmark and see what pops up. It gives me a good idea of what's rare and in demand, and it helps put things in perspective naturally of what people are looking for. Same thing on Mercari. I haven't done that on eBay. On eBay, I tend to look at, there is a website I shared with you guys before. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I shared it with you before. What are the top searched words in each category? Plus on eBay, we have our sourcing guide now. So I really like the guide a lot. You can go in and see by brand and by clothing style what has the biggest opportunity of selling. So if you're on eBay, you better be using that. Otherwise, it will come with time. You have to immerse yourself into the world of clothing, what's hot. Also, go to the mall and see what's selling. What's in the windows at American Eagle Outfitters? Are they pushing flannel shirts? Are they still doing a lot of boho gypsy type stuff? Are they moving on to a lot of winter jackets wear? Those are the things that you need to remember, you need to be on the lookout for and to list. As time goes on, you'll recognize what are the brands that you just will buy because they're that brand, right? So I'm not going to be giving out any brand list, but you'll get to know the designer, the high-end designer, the luxury brands, and then the fusion brands that are carried in like department stores. Diffusion brands, once again, are the mass appeal brands that luxury houses, create, such as Michael Kors has their standard Michael Kors catwalk line, which is not something that's really accessible to the average Joe that lives in the suburbs that shops at Macy's. So you'll get to learn that as time goes on, and just always remember, whatever you learn today, tomorrow might not be relevant, so it's going to be a continuous grind of keeping up on all of that. But if you love fashion, this will not be a grind. This is going to be awesome, and you're going to love it, just like I love it. Yeah. The other thing I do is I look on the RealReal. I go to, aside from the secondary market selling places, I'll go to like Evolve, Interchange, Intermix. I don't remember all those names. All those websites that sell new and contemporary clothing, and I'll see what's going on. I'll even go to Nordy's and Macy's and see on what's hot, what's new that's coming in, and be like, oh wow, this trend is kind of picking up steam, so let me see if I can find something. A great example for you is red. The color red, I talked about in my last video on a haul I did, is just plastered everywhere. So that came back into my little puny brain to remember, people are going to be looking for red. Let me pick up some red pieces to add to my closet. That's kind of how you know. And trial and error over time, you become more confident in your decisions and you know what to buy. How should I measure my success? Well, that is all dependent on your goals. So it's hard to answer that question unless I know what your goals are. But in order to have success, you have something you have to measure them against. And whatever those goals are, that's what we're going to define success, whether you meet those goals or you don't meet those goals. But then you might ask, well, what should my goals be? And that is a great question. It's going to differ so much. It could be clearly just profitability. It could be clearly just certain selling metrics on whatever platform you're on. It could be an acquisition of new followers on Poshmark. It could be just a million and one things, especially as you're starting out, where the expectation to have dramatic profits right off the bat is not realistic. Your goals initially will be to grow followers and just to put stuff on. Maybe your initial goal on eBay is to list 100 things, and that's going to be your initial goal. Whether you're going to turn a profit with those 100 things might not be even an issue because you're just looking for ratings. So it just all depends on specifically what your goals are. How do you measure success from a profitability standpoint? If it's from a profitability standpoint, that's easy. Then it's the profit margin. The profit margin acts as your little company's profitability measure. So not just the profit, I'd recommend you measure the profit margin, which is the net income divided by total sales. It gives you a percentage. Generally, the retail market, surprisingly, if you kind of wrap your head around it, they're in good place if they run a 3 to 6% profit margin. Actually, the average, I think, is 3.2. 6 is maybe for more luxury items or something. I don't know. But in my mind, as I think of doing my reselling, I'm really happy with anything over 30%. And that's because we do get more, obviously, for selling secondhand clothing, especially bought for $1. But I'm in California, and my bins cost is higher and my thrift store costs are higher. So I have a realistic kind of an expectation of a 30% profit margin. You're probably thinking, wait a minute, I thought you can have quadruple profits by, buying something for $1 and selling it for 30. Well, yes, that will happen, but you have to then normalize that by all the other stuff that doesn't sell, all the other stuff that sits there, continues to accrue listing fees, or maybe you have stuff in storage. So there are costs that over time will make those items in a way depreciate, kind of, if you kind of want to think about it. And then you're going to start dropping prices. So at the end of the day, a very small percentage of items will actually have that big of a profit margin. The other stuff will not. It will still sell really well, but it won't have that big of a profit margin, and it might not sell until 11 months from now, or whatever the case is. So on a month-to-month moving basis, me measuring the profit margin seems to bode well with me. It keeps me grounded as to just my expenses and just overall. And like I said, we're not tracking each individual item and how it does on average and all of that. Just month over month total expenses. So that's it. It's a lot of questions, a lot of chitter chatter, and probably a lot more conversations we could have. So your task is, if there are any topics that I went over 1 through 20 that you want additional information on, you want a video, you want a blog, you just want to talk more about it, please leave a comment down below and I'd be more than happy to explore that with you. Thank you so much for indulging me. Cheers. Gigi says hi. Adios. Ciao. Love you all. Wouldn't be here without you.